So here we are. Last night at Khao was fun, and met up with another YouTuber, video guy, entrepreneur, Cameron, who actually ran into the streets, but he's good friends with like Chris Chu and Ashir, all the Chiang Mai guys, and he's a mind hacker. So we're about to do a little podcast, and we're at this amazing rooftop bar. So tell people, I guess, like in 30 seconds or whatever, like what you teach. He said that Ashir and Chris Chu are clients of his. Like, what's your spiel, man?
Yeah, sweet, bro. So yeah, I met Riley recently, which is quite exciting. And you know what I do is I help people to make their brains function properly in the 21st century in entrepreneurship. We are not designed to be performing in entrepreneurship, so I bring a bunch of tools to the table, help guys perform at a higher level by tapping a whole bunch of cool shit. So,
wow, hell yeah. All right, we're about to do like a little podcast interview, so if you want to watch the full thing, click below. And here's the view, and the rain is coming. This is a crazy sight right now.
You are listening to Living That Life podcast. Subscribe on iTunes and at youtube.com Living That Life for amazing travel videos. View discretion is advised.
Okay, so it was a huge storm up there in the restaurant and really loud, so now we're down here in this lobby of this hotel, probably, I guess. And we had some awesome tapas at the rooftop restaurant up there, and he was telling me about this crazy mindset shit, like how you can program your brain basically to be ready for success and just to put it in you, just to get your brain on the right track. Get back on the right track. Chris Farley. Just to get your brain on the right track for entrepreneurship and for that next level. Like, and especially with me, like maybe in our Amazon business we're making around 6 figures, but how do you like get to that next level, that $1 million level? So this video will be good for you if like you're an entrepreneur especially, or maybe if you're like even an athlete he was talking about. It's the same thing, trying to break through to that next level, because a lot of times our brains are what is keeping us from getting to that next level. Like he was telling me about, he learned from tennis champions, like the people that would always do well in the big tournaments had certain mind and personality and belief aspects in their brain that allowed them to win in the big tournaments while others would fail. So we talked about a lot of stuff, so I'll let you rant about it and give your spiel to everyone on my audience, and then obviously you can go to his page and learn more about what he does. And he's actually coaching 2 of my best Chiang Mai homies, like Evan and Ashir and Chris, and teaching them how to have that growth mindset, or whatever the heck you want to call it. But anyways, so where did we start off the conversation? I guess tell us like, I guess first of all, like your background and like how did you get into this? And you were a tennis player, and you got into this whole mindset hacking thing because you realized that in the big tournaments you couldn't break through.
That's it.
Okay, so tell that story.
Yeah, cool. So at 15, I was playing tennis from about 12 to 15. I was highly competitive, and I was super passionate about the game. I loved it. It was everything I wanted to do. It was tennis, and I just loved it. Played all the time. But then I'd get to these tournaments, and like I had won little tournaments. I had lots of like little medals from these smaller tournaments. But every time I got to the big tournaments, I would find that I'd choke, and I wouldn't be able to produce my best, and it sucked. Like, it really sucked. I'd be crying. I was breaking rackets. I was pissed off, and you know, I wasn't enjoying that at all. And so I ended up, you know, being maybe a top 20 player. Could have been, you know, a lot better, top 10 if I was on form, and ended up stopping playing. As you do when you're a teenager, you move on to different things, and I wanted to know, how the hell do you do that? How do these top players perform well? So that's how it started, and that was 15 years ago. 7 years after that, you know, I found myself training the number ones. My first client was a 7-time back-to-back karate champion in New Zealand, men's karate champion. Never before that had been done, and so I started to uncover, you know, what was different about these guys that were performing at this number one level that could win under the enormous amounts of pressure that came in those moments in sport. And so I started to uncover what were the little things that were enabling that to happen. And then, over time, after a few, a lot of experiences, a few years, that started to transfer over to entrepreneurship. So now that's where it is now, where it's how do we take those same elements and we actually find these same components. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to make a leap, whether it's up an income bracket or whether it's an up a performance bracket, whether it's increasing the quality of your life and your relationships at the same time as expanding your business, whatever it is that you're looking to do in terms of your goals, you're always looking to up level. And so what's the gap between where you are now and where you want to be? And that is always that we're just talking, I was just sharing with Riley about this as a trajectory increase. So you typically need to increase the trajectory to be able to get to that next level, and you usually need to increase the incline of that. And to make that, how do you make that leap? So that's kind of where we've been exploring. Yeah.
So more about this trajectory stuff, and briefly about you're telling me you were working with some Formula One mindset guys, so Formula One, he was telling me there was this group in Formula One that tried to experiment with the minds of some Formula One race car drivers in New Zealand, and you were involved with that. Tell people a little bit about that.
Yeah, cool. So there's a neuroscientist who was a mathematician who I ended up working with, who was working in Formula One. Formula One is one of the world's most expensive sports. They invest hundreds of millions of dollars into this, and they basically gave them an unlimited budget, and they said, go anywhere you want in the world, we'll open every door, and we want to find out how do we hack the brains of our athletes. And so basically what he did is he went to NASA and he went to labs in the Air Force. This is to the top brain researchers in the world when it came to performance in the most extreme environments, right? Space and the Air Force, which is just incredibly extreme, and there's no room for error. So they went there, and basically he ended up now the current Formula One champion, I believe is currently Lewis Hamilton. He was the guy that he was hacking.
Oh, no way!
So basically so you see the evidence.
Yeah, every story that you've told me an example of, now they're the champion.
Yeah,
like
that's
the rugby team,
Yep.
like everything.
Yeah, so we talked about the New Zealand All Blacks. He came in and worked with them, and so I spent a number of years mastering some of his more difficult to master technologies, and then I ended up working with them, and so basically this whole idea of how do you hack the actual system that you're in, how do you hack your brain basically in order to be able to tap your best performance. And that limit, to get to that limitless pill. That's it. That's our goal, right?
Exactly. Like everyone wants to, if you're a guy, you want to be the limitless, you want to be a beast, you want to be doing whatever and just flying. So okay, on this trajectory, so let me try to explain it. In order, like if let's say you want to go up in life, whatever it is, business, money, whatever, you have to set your mindset trajectory going on there. And if let's say you get lucky or something and you make a lot of money, if your mindset is not aligned with that, it's gonna balance out with unluckiness. So talk a little bit about that trajectory, and that's part of the conversation.
Yeah, great question. So what you said is so accurate. If it is that you happen to get, a lot of people think, I'm gonna get lucky and I'll win big and then I'll keep it. And the truth is we don't see that. That is not the evidence that we see in the world, right? We see, you might hear, for every one Mark Zuckerberg, there's 10,000 guys that bailed really hard after an early lucky win, and they collapsed. And the reason why is because they weren't psychologically ready for that win. And the best example we can see with the most consistent research is lotto winners, right? Lotto winners, lives end up worse off after they win the money than when they were before. So you can't expect that, okay, I'm gonna win big out here and that's gonna somehow fix, and I'm gonna stabilize that and I'm gonna deal with that really well. It doesn't typically happen. So what you've got to be doing instead is you've got to be looking at, okay, if I'm here and I'm earning, let's say you've got a business, you're earning 50 grand, 60 grand a year, and you want to make it to that 6-figure level, you want to target that 7-figure level, then what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go to work on the scaffolding, which is going to support all of that, which is you. And so the way we do that is we go to work on setting up a structure inside of your world which ultimately supports and stabilizes the beliefs. And I was sharing this example with Riley before about the difference between, if you use the 3 little pigs metaphor, so the first little pig has a straw house, the second little pig has his house made out of wood, and the third little pig has his house made out of bricks. Now that's the journey that you have to go on as an entrepreneur. You have to be building that psychology, and there are ways that you can do that in that aren't so strong. So you can read personal development books, and that's cool. Like, it'll give you a little bit of a hit, but it's not going to build in the scaffolding that is so solid that when the world pushes, your system automatically pushes back. And that's what you need. If you don't have that, that's where psychological resilience comes in, and that's where you were mentioning before, these top players in any sport. So you mentioned Kobe Bryant, and I told you there's this trajectory where when the pressure comes on, most players start to approach their best, and the pressure comes on, there's a threshold, and they start to shake. They get like turbulence in an aircraft. Yeah. And they might come up here for a little bit, but then they'll usually crash back down. Whereas these top players, they kind of like they start warming up at that point, right? And it's an inverse relationship. So this is the relationship that you have to create, and there's a specific way you've got to do it. There's a specific type of character that you have to basically build into yourself, and you have to systemize and ritualize this in your life, so your life begins to just basically be everywhere your mind looks. It sees this identity and nothing else, and only once it sees that does it really start to build it in. And that's what we do. I set up the systems for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And it's really interesting thinking about my sports past and like that turbulence when pressure comes, because I kind of admit I've actually never been that clutch player. I can totally relate to that. Like, I've kind of just been, like, I was like, good in sports, but never like the clutch guy, known as the clutch guy or whatever. And then onto the next part of our conversation we had is you're talking about building the rituals. Like, for example, you're telling me like now every day you wake up at 5:30 and have your morning rituals. Like, I've heard Tim Ferriss talk about his morning rituals. But yeah, and then you're also talking about like there's energy levels or like some like shit about that. So give people an overview of like what you coach people with as far as the systems and the rituals.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's in the morning, you basically what the best example to give is Michael Phelps. So Michael Phelps won the one of his gold medals with broken goggles. Most people don't know this. He swam the last lap of the race, which he was behind at the turn, and he touched in front and won a gold medal in the world champ in the Olympic final. Jeez. The best of the best, after people have been training for like 4 years plus and 15 years behind that, and he couldn't even see. Jeez. How the fuck is that possible? Yeah. Right? How is that possible? Well, it's only possible because he literally has a ritualized system that he's been running, and he's been running that tape of who he is for so long that he doesn't even need to be able to physically see. His mind knows he knows the strokes, he knows where he is in the pool, he knows all this stuff. Yeah. So what we have to do is we have to condition our system in order to be able to know those things in advance. So that obviously is visualization is involved in that, and that is a crucial component. Yeah. But there's also 4 energy systems, and we need to activate those systems in order to be able to get the peak output, our peak identity. Yeah. The identity is everything. How you see yourself is identity. Absolutely everything. Yeah. A millionaire sees themselves totally different. Yeah. A leader sees themselves completely differently to somebody else. Yeah. So you've got to understand that all of your self-talk is coming from these places. So we use physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. These are the 4 different domains, and each of them have levers. And we basically trigger them and activate them in a certain sequence, and then we get you into a state, which is once you're in that state, man, it's like your spiritual and your primal sides, they're all on, your hormones are fired up, and you're just like, I could tear down a wall right now, I feel unstoppable.
Holy shit. Okay, so that part of our conversation at dinner really got me ticking, like, whoa, like activating in certain levels. It sounds like he's like doing a spell on you or something, but those 4 energy states: physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And can you share with us like some tidbits about like how do you activate those all in the right sequence, and what comes first, or like what's
so it varies for everyone, right? So this is a unique code that you figure out. We have to figure this out with every individual that comes to our program. So all we know is that you're going to be activating all 4. And beyond that, I can't tell you the exact specifics of what it's going to be for you, because we design this uniquely for every person. Yeah. And it's the state that you're looking to get at the end, whereby all of your self-talk, all of your emotional world, all of your psychological world, your focus, your physical body, everything is lined up in one singular direction towards the outcomes and the individual, the identity that you're creating, which is your self-image. And so we actually use the system to modify your self-image every day so that your self-image keeps being pushed in the direction that you're wanting it to become. So you keep showing up as that version. And then the thing is, when you activate that, you're able to act as that individual on that day, which means that you can act as the millionaire, make the decisions as the millionaire would, as opposed to the guy who's earning 50,000, which means you make completely different decisions. So that's the key behind it. But it's individual for every person. It does involve exercise, it does involve visualization, it does involve study or learning, it may involve a walk, it may involve some kind of self-talk, it may involve some hypnosis, it usually involves some meditation. I mean, it's a combination of things.
Oh, I'm liking that. I'm liking that.
I have an ebook actually, like a little cheat sheet where I've written down what my ritual is, and I've got the visualize that, so you guys can download that. I'll get you the link for that.
I'm trying to get that, and props on the ebook. I'm still procrastinating on my first ebook, and this stuff has really got my mind ticking. It's making a lot of sense. Oh yeah, you were talking about self-identity is a huge thing, and how sometimes, let's say our business is going into the next level, we're kind of going up, and then we're stuck in the middle ground between our next identity, maybe the millionaire identity or whatever it is, and your previous identity. And if you're not ready for the next level of success identity, then you're by default going to go back to the first one.
100%. So we know in neuroscience that your brain will always move you towards the same patterns that it's used before. So it doesn't like change. Even people that say that they really value change or variety, what you'll find is that they're just maybe changing locations or changing things, but there's core elements that aren't changing.
Exactly.
And that's because your brain doesn't want to change those things, because it knows that there's survival. So your brain isn't one unit. There's a bunch of little micro units, and they're doing different things and trying to talk to each other and interact with each other. And so what's going to happen is, when you get to these threshold points, right, where your identity will essentially, the old identity just gets snapped, and the system just moves, and it has to stay in that new area. Now, if you're trying to go through an ambiguous shift, like you're making a jump to, I want to go to 6 figures, you know, multiple 6 figures or whatever, that's going to put dramatic changes in terms of the way you communicate to yourself, to other people. That's going to change the way that you show up, change your routines, change your whole everything. And your body and your brain is going to need to get conditioned into that. You can't just wake up and just be like, cool, I read a personal development book, I'm going to be a millionaire now. I see an affirmation in the mirror. Affirmations don't work, by the way. So they're not what they're put up to be, right?
There you go.
So to get yourself to believe things that you don't currently believe in, affirmation's not going to do it. Your brain is going to kick you straight back and say, you don't believe that, that is not true, you're not a liar, stop lying to yourself. It's just going to confuse you. So basically, we've got to set up a system. I talk about it like a hospital. I use the metaphor of a hospital because we've got to create enough structure around you that your identity, your brain is only seeing who you're becoming, and it's not focused at all on the guy that you were yesterday, because if it's focused there, then that's not focused where you want to go, and you need to be looking where you're going, not where you've been. That's a really important distinction. And
you were talking about like mind leaking, like leaking energy. Like I think about this all the time, because I'm obsessed with the 4-hour work week, and he talks about like low information diet, like total, and I can totally relate, even just on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, about wasted energy. Just like wasted energy thinking about some project that's not even essential to my business or essential to, you know, making money. Just like wasted brain energy, like even just like accepting invitations that, you know, are not aligned with your where you're trying to go. It's like so much wasted brain energy out there, and you were ranting about that. Like, what? Explain that.
That's a great example, right? Accepting an invitation that isn't in line with the person that you're trying to be. So think about that for a second. Who accepted the invitation? was it the guy that you're trying to be, or was it the guy that you were yesterday?
Ah, yeah.
Right? It's the guy you were yesterday. And so this is what we need to work against, because this is what your brain is doing all the time. It's keeping you, it's making actions that you don't even think about. You're not conscious when you do that. You're just like, I accept the invitation, no big deal. It is a big deal. In my world, it's a big deal. Because what it means is it means that you're not inside the experience of the other guy. Now, if you're not inside the experience of the other guy, I already know, you may not know it, but I already know, as being where I am in my field, I know that your results that are coming are not the results that you want. And so my job is to basically condition you so that you don't show up as that guy and you don't say yes to that invitation, because that time and that energy could be directed either in rejuvenation and recovery, so that tomorrow, by the way, rejuvenation and recovery are crucial, so that tomorrow your system has enough energy to activate that new version of you and push from the outside into an environment that doesn't yet match it. Because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to build an identity which which is out of sync with your environment, and you have to have a lot of power to, from inside, generate that source of fuel to push into the environment and change the environment itself. That's a very, very energy intensive activity. So you've got to be very, very careful where your energy is leaking. And honestly, any little energy leaks, you know, I did an accounting for, when I made some huge breakthroughs in my world and my business, I did an accounting for where did they come from. And I was looking for like one big thing that happened, and it wasn't there. The truth is, it was just a series of micro moments where I was that guy and not the guy that I was yesterday. And I made one small decision, and it was turning someone down to meet with them, or it was choosing to focus on this thing and get that done because I was already embodied in that guy, versus taking that time off or whatever it was. And what happened was, the net effect was, it got me over a certain hurdle, which got me over a threshold, which gave me a breakthrough, which then gave me momentum, which fueled it, and so on and so on. But it's all down to these micro things, and they're happening all the time, and they're being defined and decided by this processes that's going on unconsciously. You're not aware of these things. So we've got to make you aware of them. You've got to get conditioned, and you've got to release that. Now, just so you know, this is not this sort of work. This is like, we're talking about how you become number one. We're talking about how you play at that elite level, right?
Yeah.
This is not for people that are like, if you're just wanting to do lifestyle and have fun, and like, nothing wrong with lifestyle, but if you're just wanting to, like, if you don't really want to push yourself, you don't really want to max yourself, this stuff is not for you, because it's demanding. It's going to demand it's the maximum demand, right? Like, this is only for people that really are more interested in being like the absolute best than, and that's got to be super important. And you know, just like an Olympic athlete, you know, they sacrifice a lot to be able to make that, to get that identity. And it's, you know, a lot of people aren't willing to do that, but that's okay.
Wow, yeah, this is really got my mind ticking. And speaking of Olympics, you were talking about, like, was it what was the New Zealander? Oh yeah, the mindset guy or whatever, or like you or whoever this mindset guy was working with, the New Zealand Olympic athletes, and that year after their mindset training, New Zealand as a whole won more medals than any year. Yep. So it's like, it's training how to be number one. Yep.
I'll give you one distinction on that, right? So my neuroscientist mentor, this is the guy who trained these guys, what he said the difference between the person that gets up and wins gold and the difference between the person that gets up that could win gold but doesn't, is the person that gets up and wins gold isn't thinking, and the person that gets up and doesn't is thinking. So the difference is they've been so conditioned that it's run unconscious. It's not, your performance is either unconscious or your identity that you don't want is coming out and it's unconscious. Wow. So it's one of those two things.
This is deep stuff, deep programming your unconscious. Yeah. Which totally makes sense to me. Like I was explaining, oh yeah, let's go deep into that little topic about like cancer and how your unconscious, your brain and your heart are electrical machines. And I was explaining to Cameron that I actually studied biochemistry, molecular biology, genetics, cellular biology, whatever you want to call it, in university. And after that I realized, okay, the university, that major was just, you know, producing employees for pharmaceutical companies. And I kind of had a little awakening about that, and it's like, okay, I don't want to be part of that or work in a lab. But getting to my point, I started looking into through YouTube, or found out somehow about natural healing through YouTube, and how your healing is voltage, and your cells heal on a certain voltage, and which is actually true. pH level, voltage, whatever you want to call it, electron level, charge, whatever you want to call it. And your brain and your heart are actually the highest electrical machines in our body, you know, obviously. So that's why you were talking about you want to bring this to the world of cancer, to heal people. And I've been watching YouTube videos about this for years, about people, you know, doing alternative, whatever, natural remedies for cancer. And Cameron actually told me that his dad actually died from cancer. You know, we all know someone that was affected. So, and that really got me ticking. I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's so awesome to bring this world, because this whole mindset thing that we're talking about, this is affecting our whole entire physical body as well. Because like I was saying, the brain is an electrical machine, and it affects the voltage of your entire body and your heart too. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that spiel with the cancer. How did you, and where do you intend to go with that? And have you seen any like case studies or whatever? Yeah, so I mean, it's at really early days with this.
So you know, the next step is, after building the performance business, is to then, you know, the first R&D lab. Now it's gone from the athletes, now it's the entrepreneurs, and then the next step is to take some of this stuff and start working with people who are experiencing cancer, and to do some research in that area. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of examples. There's a lot of people that have healed themselves. I mean, people heal themselves every day. You know, millions of people are dying, but millions of people are healing themselves as well. Maybe not millions, but a lot of them are. So the intention is to probably go and do some modeling around that, find out what have they been doing that's different, and figure out kind of some of those things. But exactly what you talked about, you know, like the cells and the energy and the electricity that's going in your body. I mean, when we're talking about the energy systems, you know, if you're an entrepreneur and you're talking about the energy systems, that's voltage, right? Like, what are you vibrating at? Are you is your system on? Like, are you activated and you fired up, and you know the difference, right? You know, and you know when you're just like on, and your energy is on, and all these systems are on, you're clear, you're focused, you're like processing information that you're just like, holy shit, how do I know that when I know it? Like, this is the sort of thing. And you know, there's a lot of research going into flow states, which this is absolutely flow state stuff, right? So that's another, you know, word that everybody's familiar with now, I think. And this is all part of, you know, the things which the system that you're in, your body can do, you know, when you're in these states, is quite phenomenal. So, you know, I'm looking into, you know, the origins of, you know, how is that, I'm thinking about, I've got some thoughts around it, but it's probably a little bit early to get too sherry on it.
Awesome. Almost 30 minutes and battery's blinking now. But I've watched tons of videos about flow states, about like Michael Jordan, and also Lil Wayne when he's freestyling. And how can they freestyle? And I've always been a fan since a little kid about like freestyling, like how they do it and stuff like that. Anyways, to sum it up, it's all about flow states and vibrations. And we all know about good vibes, positive vibes, but like on the next level of positive vibes. That's what this guy does. He's a vibes coach, to put it in layman's terms. So his links will be below. Check out his Facebook. That's your main thing, like the Facebook stuff. Yeah, man. Facebook content.
Yep. And we got that energy system. So energy stacking is what it's called. And this literally just produced a quick, like, 8-page guide on that, on the introduction to that. And that's at, it's funny you say Limitless. So it's at CameronGallagher.com/limitless. So go grab that. And
the real Limitless guy.
And there's also there's a MindHacking experience that I just pulled together, actually just kicked off this week. So that's probably following on from that. So you can check that out, use some of the tools for yourself, and experience some shifts for yourself.
Yes, experience the shifts. And this is actually crazy, just to end it up. I met this guy walking down the sidewalk in Bangkok, and he was walking out of a cafe, and he looked just like he is now. He just walked out, like, you know, made eye contact, and I was like, okay, like, I'm usually kind of like that nowadays, more extroverted, like, I'll say hi to people, and then he approached me again from behind, like, yeah, mate, I see your YouTube share, like, what are you doing? So, crazy coincidence. I hope that little interaction provided massive value to some people out there in the world. So,
cool.
Thanks,
brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. Great. See you guys down below. Click stuff. Bye.
Thanks for listening till the end. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment and a review. See ya.